The great hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with activity. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy had gathered for the monthly council session. The massive dome stretched high above them, its crystal walls showing the stars beyond. Today was different, though. Today they had received something amusing. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the central podium. His tall, blue-skinned form gleamed under the hall's bright lights. 4 arms moved gracefully as he spoke, while his large black eyes scanned the crowd. Behind him, a holographic display showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. "Fellow council members," Kethvar began, his voice carrying easily through the hall, "we have received a most entertaining transmission from the Outer Rim. A species calling themselves humans has sent us their first attempt at galactic communication." Laughter rippled through the assembly. The crystalline collective representatives chimed like broken glass. The massive Corvan delegates rumbled deep in their chests. Even the ancient ethereals, usually silent during sessions, showed signs of amusement through their glowing forms. "Please," Kethvar continued, raising one hand for quiet, "allow me to share this remarkable message with you all." The hologram changed to show a human figure. The being was small, barely reaching 2 meters in height. Its skin was a pale pink color, and thin hair covered the top of its head. Most amusing of all, it only had 2 arms and 2 eyes. The creature wore simple cloth coverings and stood in front of what appeared to be primitive structures. "Greetings to the stars," the human said in broken galactic standard. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I speak for the planet Earth and all humanity. We have recently discovered that we are not alone in the universe. This brings us great joy and hope." More laughter erupted from the crowd. Councillor Vexitai of the Corvan Empire slammed a massive fist on his floating platform. "2 arms," he roared. "How do they build anything with only 2 arms?" The human continued speaking, unaware of the mockery. "We know we are young compared to your great civilizations. Our technology is simple. Our ships can barely reach our own moon. But we have dreams of peace and friendship among the stars. We hope to learn from you and share what little we know." "What could they possibly share?" whispered Seer Luxandra of the Crystalline Collective. Her body was made of living crystal that caught and bent light in beautiful patterns. They burned chemical fuel to leave their planet. "We mastered quantum tunneling 1,000,000 years ago." The message showed images of human cities. The buildings were short and made of metal and stone. Vehicles moved on wheels along flat surfaces. Most primitive of all, the humans used electromagnetic waves to communicate between their settlements. "Look at their cities," said Elder Morgeth of the Void Walkers. His ghost-like form flickered with energy. No dimensional folding. No gravity manipulation. They build everything on a flat surface like children playing with blocks. Dr. Chen's message continued. "We understand that joining a galactic community requires advanced technology and wisdom. We are working hard to develop both. Our scientists study your mathematics and physics. Our leaders discuss how to live in peace with other worlds. We hope that one day you will consider us worthy of friendship." The crowd's amusement grew louder. Some delegates were now openly laughing. The Zephyrians activated their translation devices, sharing jokes in their own language. The sound of their laughter created a weird harmony with the chiming of the crystallines and the rumbling of the Corvan. "Worthy of friendship," repeated Kethvar, his forearms spreading wide. "Listen to their ambition. They speak of peace while they still fight wars on their own planet. They dream of the stars while they poison their own air and water." The hologram showed more images. Human spacecraft that looked like metal tubes with fire coming out the back. Weapons that fired small metal projectiles. Communication devices that required towers and cables to work across distances. "Their fastest ships move at a tiny fraction of light speed," noted Councillor Zareth of the Photon Riders. Her energy-based form crackled with electricity. "At their current pace, it would take them thousands of years to reach the nearest civilized system. If they don't destroy themselves first," added Admiral Thexmar of the Stellar Navy. His mechanical body was covered in advanced armor plating. 90% of species at their level kill themselves within a few centuries. War, pollution, resource depletion, the usual primitive mistakes. Dr. Chen's message was ending. "We send this message with hope in our hearts. We know the galaxy is vast and we are small, but we believe that every species has something valuable to offer. We hope to hear from you soon, and to begin a friendship that will last for ages to come." The transmission ended, leaving silence for a moment. Then the laughter began again, louder than before. Some delegates were holding their sides or equivalent body parts. Others wiped tears from their eyes or optical sensors. Kethvar waited for the noise to die down. When he spoke again, his voice carried the authority of one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. The Council has considered this request for contact. Our response is simple. Earth fails to meet even the minimum requirements for consideration. He gestured and new images appeared. Zephyrian cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants, crystalline structures that existed in 17 dimensions at once, Corvin battle fleets that could move faster than thought itself. To join our community, a species must demonstrate mastery of at least basic quantum mechanics, dimensional engineering, and faster-than-light communication, Kethvar explained. Earth has achieved none of these. They are barely capable of reaching their own satellite. What should we tell them? Asked Counselor Yixara of the Trade Federation. Her insect-like form clicked and buzzed as she spoke. Tell them the truth, Kethvar replied. Tell them to focus on not destroying themselves. If they can survive the next few thousand years without killing their own planet, perhaps their descendants might develop enough to be worth our attention. Should we offer any guidance? This came from Emissary Dalmoth of the Peaceful Expansion. His plant-like body swayed gently as he spoke. What guidance could we give that they would understand? Laughed Admiral Thexmar. Explaining quantum tunneling to them would be like teaching higher mathematics to insects. They lack the basic framework to comprehend real technology. The Council moved to vote on their response. It was unanimous. Earth would receive a brief message explaining their inadequacy, along with some basic advice about not destroying themselves. The tone would be polite but firm, like adults explaining to children why they couldn't play with dangerous tools. I almost feel sorry for them, said Sir Luxandra, as delegates began to leave. Such hope in their message. They really believe they could be our equals someday. Hope is common among primitive species, replied Kethvar. It helps them survive their difficult early years. But reality always wins in the end. The galaxy belongs to those strong and advanced enough to claim it. As the Great Hall emptied, the hologram of Earth continued to spin slowly. The small blue planet looked peaceful and quiet, home to a species that dreamed of stars they could barely reach. None of the departing delegates gave it a second glance. The message would be sent within the week. Earth would learn that the galaxy had no place for dreamers with primitive technology. The humans would probably be disappointed, but that was the natural order of things. Advanced species ruled the stars, while primitive ones learned their place or disappeared entirely. High above Nexus Prime, the real stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the dreams of insects on a distant world. 50 years had passed since the Galactic Council's dismissive response reached Earth. In the great halls of Nexus Prime, few beings remembered the amusing transmission from the primitive humans. The galaxy had moved on to more important matters. The Zephyrian Empire had expanded into 3 new sectors, claiming rich mining worlds near the galactic core. The Crystalline Collective had achieved another breakthrough in dimensional mathematics, allowing them to build cities that existed in 23 dimensions simultaneously. The ancient ethereals had awakened from their meditation cycle and begun sharing new philosophical insights with worthy species. War had come and gone between the Corvin Empire and the Void Walkers over territorial disputes. Trade agreements had been signed and broken. New species had been discovered, evaluated, and either welcomed into civilization or dismissed as unworthy. The galaxy's great wheel continued its eternal turn. Earth had fallen silent. Ambassador Kethvar occasionally wondered what had happened to the hopeful humans. During quiet moments in his office overlooking the crystal spires of Nexus Prime, he would call up old files and read Dr. Chen's naive message. The translation algorithms had improved since then, making the primitive grammar and word choices even more amusing. Probably destroyed themselves, he told his aide, Fluxaren, during one such moment. Chemical warfare, nuclear fire, ecological collapse, the usual progression for species at their level. Statistics don't lie. Fluxaren, a younger Zephyrian with bright green skin, nodded respectfully. Should we send a probe to confirm, Ambassador? For historical records? Waste of resources, Kethvar replied, closing the file. Dead primitives tell no tales worth hearing. Better to focus on species with actual potential. Similar conversations happened across the, galaxy. Dr. Yarinth of the Galactic Survey Corps mentioned the silent humans in her annual report on failed civilizations. Admiral Thexmar used Earth as an example in his lectures to young officers about the dangers of premature contact with primitive species. The case became a footnote in xenobiology textbooks. Another species that reached too high too fast and paid the expected price. But on a hidden moon, orbiting the gas giant in the Sol system, the truth was very different. Dr. Sarah Chen was now 87 years old. Her hair had turned completely white, and her once smooth face was marked by decades of hard work and determination. She moved slowly through the corridors of Luna Base 7, the most classified facility humanity had ever built. The base was buried 3 kilometers beneath the moon's surface. Its existence was known only to a select few, the brightest scientists, the most trusted engineers, and the leaders who had made the hardest decision in human history. After receiving the Council's dismissive response, humanity had chosen silence over surrender. Status report, Chen said as she entered the main operations center. The room was vast, filled with holographic displays and equipment that would have seemed impossible 50 years ago. Hundreds of technicians worked at stations that hummed with quiet energy. Phase 7 is complete, Director, reported Dr. James Liu, her chief of research. His team had cracked the quantum entanglement principles buried in the Council's own transmission. The drive systems are ready for testing. We've achieved stable dimensional folding in the test chambers. Chen nodded and moved to the next station. Weapons development? All systems operational, said Colonel Maria Santos, head of military applications. The reality anchors are performing beyond expectations. Temporal displacement fields are stable, and the matter conversion arrays. She paused, still amazed by their own success. The destruction potential is beyond anything in the Council's own technical data. Good, Chen said simply. Communications? We've mapped every major communication hub in Confederation space, reported Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the intelligence section. Their security protocols are sophisticated but predictable. When we're ready to talk, they'll hear us whether they want to or not. Chen walked to the center of the room, where a massive holographic display showed the galaxy. Thousands of stars glowed in different colors, marking the territories of various Council species. Earth appeared as a tiny dot near the edge, seemingly insignificant. 50 years, she said quietly. 50 years since they told us we weren't worthy. 50 years of being called insects and primitives. The room fell silent. Everyone present had dedicated their lives to this moment. They had given up families, careers, normal lives, all for the chance to prove humanity's worth to an indifferent galaxy. Director, said Dr. Liu carefully, the test results suggest we may have exceeded the original parameters. Our technology isn't just equal to theirs anymore. In many areas, we've surpassed them completely. Chen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Good. They wanted to see advancement? Let's show them what happens when you underestimate a species with nothing to lose and everything to prove. She gestured to the display, and new images appeared. Ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to bend light around them. Weapons that fired compressed space-time itself. Defensive systems that existed in folded dimensions, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons. The Council made a mistake, Chen continued. They assumed we would follow their expected pattern. Develop slowly, make the same errors, probably destroy ourselves like 90% of species at our level. But they gave us something invaluable in their rejection. What's that, Director? Asked a young technician. Information, Chen replied. Their dismissive response included detailed technical specifications, territorial boundaries, military capabilities, and most importantly, their complete confidence in their own superiority. They told us exactly what we needed to match, then forgot we existed. She turned to address the entire room. Every species that ever challenged the Council did so with weapons and tactics the Council understood. They fought conventional wars with conventional technology. That's why they all lost. The hologram shifted to show battle recordings from the Council's archives, fleet engagements between various species over the millennia. The patterns were predictable. Massive ships firing energy weapons, fighters swarming in standard formations, shields failing under sustained bombardment. We're not going to fight their kind of war, Chen said. We're going to fight a human war, with human creativity, human stubbornness, and human willingness to think outside their comfortable assumptions. Dr. Santos stepped forward. When do we begin, Director? Chen looked around the room at the faces of humanity's finest minds. These people had spent their entire adult lives preparing for this moment. The weight of their species' future rested on their shoulders. Soon, she said. Very soon. But first, we need to choose our stage carefully. The galaxy needs to see what humanity has become. But it has to be the right demonstration, something that will make them take notice without starting a war we're not ready to finish. The border regions, suggested Dr. Tanaka. Pirate attacks, rogue factions, criminal organizations, places where the Council's response is predictable and slow. We could intervene. Perfect, Chen agreed. Let the galaxy see mysterious ships with impossible technology saving lives and enforcing justice. Let them wonder who these newcomers are and where they came from. Build the legend before we reveal ourselves. She paused, looking once more at the galaxy display. Somewhere out there, Council members continued their daily lives, secure in their power and certain of their superiority. They had no idea that the insects they had dismissed decades ago were now ready to emerge from their cocoon. 50 years of silence ends now, Chen declared. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity is still here, still learning and very much alive. The room erupted in quiet cheers and applause. Outside, hidden shipyards prepared vessels that would reshape the balance of galactic power. The age of human silence was ending, and the age of consequence was about to begin. The mining colony on Kepler 442b was having a normal day until the pirates arrived. The settlement was small, only 3,000 workers extracting rare crystalline compounds from the planet's purple mountains. It was far from the main shipping lanes, which made it perfect for both mining and raiding. Captain Vexmar of the Void Syndicate smiled as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 20 ships against a defenseless mining operation. This would be easy money. His crew needed supplies, and the crystal refineries would fetch good prices on the black market. Standard approach, he ordered from the bridge of his flagship, the Reaper's Edge. Disable their communications first, then demand surrender. If they resist, destroy one building to show we're serious. His tactical officer, a scarred Corvin named Grixtel, nodded and began targeting the settlement's communication arrays. Around them, the rest of the pirate fleet moved into attack formation. It was almost boring how predictable these raids had become. Below on the planet's surface, mining supervisor Dekran watched the approaching ships with growing fear. His people were civilians, engineers, geologists, and workers with families. They had no weapons capable of fighting warships, and the nearest Confederation patrol was 6 days away. Send the distress signal, he told his communications officer. All frequencies. Maybe someone will hear us. The signal went out into space carrying coordinates and a desperate plea for help. Standard procedure said it would be received by Confederation monitoring stations within hours, processed through bureaucratic channels, and eventually forwarded to the appropriate naval command. Help would arrive in about a week, assuming the pirates didn't jam all transmissions first. Captain Vexmar was beginning his usual demands for surrender when something unexpected happened. A new contact appeared on his sensors, a single ship emerging from what appeared to be empty space. It was sleek and dark, unlike any design in his extensive database of galactic vessels. Unknown vessel, he broadcast on standard frequencies. You are interfering with a legitimate salvage operation. Identify yourself and leave immediately, or be destroyed. The response came in perfect galactic standard, though the voice carried an accent Vexmar didn't recognize. This is the UES determination. You will release any hostages and surrender immediately. Vexmar laughed so hard he nearly fell from his command chair. One ship? Against my entire fleet? I think your navigation computer is broken, friend. You've stumbled into the wrong system at the wrong time. This is your final warning, the unknown voice replied calmly. Surrender now. Grixtel, Vexmar said, wiping tears from his eyes. Show our brave hero what happens to people who don't know their place. All ships, open fire. 20 pirate vessels turned their weapons toward the strange ship. Energy cannons, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic bombardment systems unleashed their fury. The space around the mysterious vessel lit up with explosions and deadly radiation. When the light faded, the ship was still there. Completely undamaged. Impossible, whispered Grixtel. Nothing can withstand that much firepower. Perhaps, said the calm voice from the unknown ship. You should have listened. What happened next would be discussed in hushed whispers throughout the galaxy's criminal underworld for decades to come. The mysterious ship didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, It seemed to reach out with invisible hands and simply crush the pirate vessels. The first ship to die was the destroyer Fear's Promise. Something invisible grabbed it and compressed it into a sphere of twisted metal and screaming crew members. The sphere then exploded with such force that nearby ships were damaged by the shockwave. The second ship tried to run. The frigate Knight's Edge attempted to jump to hyperspace but found its engines suddenly didn't work. The space around it seemed to fold inward, and the ship was pulled into what looked like a miniature black hole. It disappeared with a flash of blue light. Reality anchors, the human voice explained conversationally. Your faster-than-light systems won't function while we're present. Consider it a learning experience. Captain Vexmar watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships weren't just blown up, they were unmade, twisted into impossible shapes, folded through dimensions that hurt to look at, or simply erased from existence as if they had never been built. The weapons didn't make sense. Energy beams that seemed to be made of compressed space-time itself. Projectiles that moved faster than light while somehow still being visible. Defensive systems that existed in folded dimensions, making the mysterious ship impossible to target effectively. What are you? Vexmar gasped as another of his vessels was turned inside out by forces he couldn't understand. We are what you could have been, came the reply, if you had chosen a different path. In less than 2 minutes, 19 of Vexmar's ships were destroyed. His own flagship remained intact but completely powerless. Every system had been shut down by some kind of technological virus that his engineers couldn't even detect, let alone remove. The mysterious ship approached slowly. Now that Vexmar could see it clearly, he realized how alien its design really was. The hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Energy conduits glowed with colors that didn't exist in normal space. The entire vessel gave off an aura of controlled power that made his skin crawl. Your crew is being transported to the mining facility, the voice informed him. They will be held there until Confederation forces arrive. You personally will answer for the lives lost in previous raids. Wait, Vexmar said desperately. What species are you? What empire? I've never seen technology like this. It's impossible. There was a pause before the answer came. We are human, and nothing is impossible if you try hard enough. The communication ended. Vexmar found himself and his surviving crew materialized inside the mining facility's detention center. Their weapons and equipment were gone. The mining supervisor, Dekran, stared at them in amazement. How? Dekran asked. What happened up there? Before anyone could answer, the mysterious voice spoke again, this time through the facility's communication system. Citizens of Kepler 442b, you are safe. Medical teams are being dispatched to treat any injuries. The pirate fleet has been neutralized. Who are you? Dekran called out. How did you get here so fast? Are you from the Confederation? We are travelers, came the reply. We heard your distress call and chose to help. Take care of yourselves and remember that not all who wander in the dark are lost. On the planet's surface, medical supplies and food appeared as if from nowhere, transported directly into the facility's supply rooms. The wounded were treated with medicines more advanced than anything in the Confederation's pharmacies. Broken equipment was quietly repaired by invisible hands. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the mysterious ship vanished. When the Confederation patrol finally arrived 6 days later, they found a mining facility full of grateful civilians and a detention center full of confused pirates. The only evidence of the battle was a debris field of twisted metal that made no sense to their forensic teams. Captain Vorthak of the Confederation cruiser, Steadfast, studied the wreckage with growing confusion. The metal has been compressed beyond any known process, his science officer reported. Some pieces show signs of dimensional folding. Others appear to have been aged thousands of years in seconds. And the survivors' stories? Vorthak asked. Consistent but impossible, his security chief replied. They all described the same impossible technologies. Weapons that fired space-time. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions, a single vessel that destroyed 20 pirates in under 2 minutes. Captain Vorthak had served in the Confederation Navy for 3 centuries. He had seen the weapons of every major power in the galaxy. Nothing in the survivors' testimony matched any known technology. Send a full report to Naval Intelligence, he ordered. Flag it as Priority 1, and include a recommendation for increased patrols in this sector. Whatever destroyed these pirates might still be out there. As the Steadfast jumped back to hyperspace carrying its impossible cargo of witnesses and evidence, None of its crew noticed the small device attached to their hull. The device would record everything: conversations, technical readouts, patrol routes, and naval procedures. All of it would be transmitted to distant receivers and analyzed by minds that had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. In the depths of space, the UES Determination continued its patrol. Captain Lisa Park, humanity's first starship commander, reviewed the engagement data with satisfaction. The new weapons had performed perfectly. The defensive systems had proven completely effective against conventional attacks. Most importantly, they had saved innocent lives without revealing too much about human capabilities. Mission accomplished, she reported to her distant superiors. The galaxy now knows that someone new is watching. Time to see how they react. Behind her, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, but the galaxy had changed. Something new moved in the darkness between worlds, something that the great powers had dismissed as primitive insects 50 years ago. The balance was shifting, one impossible rescue at a time. The reports began arriving at Nexus Prime within weeks of the Kepler 442b incident. At first, they seemed like isolated anomalies, single-ship encounters with unknown vessels in remote systems. The Confederation's vast bureaucracy processed them slowly, filing them under unexplained phenomena and possible first contact situations. But Admiral Thexamar noticed the pattern. "Pull up all reports from the last 60 days, he ordered his aide, a young crystalline named Shardek. Cross-reference any mentions of unidentified vessels, impossible technologies, or intervention in criminal activities. The data filled his office's holographic displays with scattered points of light across the galaxy's outer rim. 15 separate incidents, 15 impossible encounters with ships that defied everything the Confederation knew about physics and engineering. The Outer Veil incident, Shardek reported, his crystal form chiming softly as he spoke. A convoy of civilian transports was attacked by Corvan separatists. One unidentified vessel intervened. Witnesses describe weapons that fired concentrated darkness, and shields that reflected attacks back at their source. Admiral Thexmar's mechanical fingers drummed against his desk. Casualties among the attackers? Total: 18 separatist fighters destroyed in 4 minutes. The convoy was not only saved, but damaged ships were somehow repaired during the engagement. Medical supplies appeared in their cargo holds without explanation. The Admiral moved to the next report. Taos 87? Slave traders, Shardek continued. The Crimson Brotherhood was raiding refugee settlements in the outer colonies. A single dark ship appeared and disabled their entire fleet. The slaves were freed, the slavers were captured, and somehow all the refugees received enough supplies to establish permanent settlements. How many ships did the Brotherhood lose? 37 vessels. But Admiral, that's not the strangest part. The wreckage shows signs of technologies we can't even classify. Metal that has been folded through dimensions. Energy residue from weapons that appear to compress time itself. Some debris contains materials that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of atomic structure. Admiral Thexmar stood and began pacing his office. 3 centuries of military service had taught him to recognize new threats before they became existential dangers. These incidents weren't random. They showed planning, purpose, and technological capabilities that surpassed anything in Confederation space. Have we identified the species responsible? That's where it gets truly concerning, Shardek replied. In 3 incidents, survivors reported communication with the unknown vessels. The beings identified themselves as human, the same species that sent that primitive transmission 50 years ago. The Admiral stopped pacing. Impossible. That species was barely capable of reaching their own moon. We verified their technological level through multiple sources. Yes, sir. But the voice patterns and linguistic structures match the old transmission. Our xenolinguists are certain these are the same beings we dismissed half a century ago. Show me the technical analysis. New holographic displays appeared around the office. Detailed breakdowns of wreckage from the various encounters filled the air with impossible geometries and incomprehensible energy readings. The weapons don't make sense, Shardek explained. They appear to fire compressed spacetime itself. Not energy beams that distort space, actual weaponized spacetime. Our best physicists say it should be impossible to achieve stable compression at these scales. What about their defensive systems? Even worse. They seem to exist in folded dimensions, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons. Several attackers reported that their shots simply pass through the enemy ships as if they weren't there, yet the same ships could fire back and cause devastating damage. Admiral Thexmar studied the data with growing alarm. Engine systems? Unknown. They appear and disappear without using hyperspace jump points. No energy signatures, no dimensional rifts, no quantum wake. They simply arrive and depart as if distance means nothing to them. The Admiral returned to his desk and activated his secure communication array. Get me Ambassador Kethvar. Priority 1. While waiting for the connection, he reviewed the most disturbing aspect of the reports. In every single incident, the mysterious humans had sided with the innocent and oppressed. They saved civilians, freed slaves, protected refugees, and stopped criminal organizations. But they did it with technology that made the Confederation's best weapons look like children's toys. Kethvar's image appeared in the hologram. The Zephyrian looked tired. Managing galactic politics was exhausting even for a species that lived for millennia. Admiral, Kethvar said, I assume this is about the mystery ship reports. I've been hearing whispers from various council members. It's more than whispers now, Admiral Thexmar replied. We have confirmation. These are the same humans we rejected 50 years ago. Somehow they've developed technology that surpasses our most advanced systems. That's impossible, Kethvar said immediately. We have their complete technological profile. They were using chemical rockets and electromagnetic communications. Even with accelerated development, it would take them millennia to reach our current level. Unless they found a completely different path to advancement, the Admiral suggested. Look at this data. He transmitted the technical analysis to Kethvar's office. The ambassador's four eyes widened as he reviewed the information. This can't be right, Kethvar muttered. Weapons that fire compressed spacetime? Dimensional folding technology? These concepts are beyond even our theoretical research. That's what makes them so dangerous, Admiral Thexmar said. We've spent millions of years developing technology along predictable paths. Every species we've encountered follows similar patterns. But these humans, they've found something else entirely. What do you recommend? The Admiral paused, considering his words carefully. Full intelligence gathering. We need to know everything about current human capabilities, their technology, their numbers, their intentions. Most importantly, we need to understand how they achieved this level of advancement so quickly. And if they prove to be a threat, then we'll need to act before they become unstoppable. Meanwhile, in a hidden facility beneath Luna's surface, Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing the same incidents from a different perspective. The wall displays in her command center showed successful mission reports instead of threat assessments. 15 interventions completed, reported Colonel Santos. 0 casualties among protected civilians. Criminal organizations neutralized with minimal force. Our ships remain undetected and unidentified. Excellent, Chen replied. And the intelligence gathering? Beyond our expectations, said Dr. Tanaka. Every rescued ship, every defeated pirate vessel, every grateful settlement has been equipped with passive monitoring devices. We're receiving detailed information about Confederation military procedures, patrol routes, communication protocols, and command structures. Chen smiled. The plan was working perfectly. Each rescue operation served multiple purposes, saving innocent lives, demonstrating human capabilities, and gathering crucial intelligence about the galaxy's power structures. Have they begun to take notice? Oh yes, Dr. Liu said from his station. Confederation intelligence channels are buzzing with reports about mysterious ships and impossible technologies. They're starting to put the pieces together. Good, let them wonder. Let them worry. 50 years ago, they dismissed us as primitive insects. Now they're discovering that insects can evolve in unexpected ways. Chen walked to the central display, which showed a real-time map of Confederation space. Red markers indicated areas of criminal activity. Blue markers showed human ship positions. Green markers represented successful intervention missions. Phase 2 begins immediately, she announced. Continue the intervention missions, but start revealing more of our capabilities. Let them see what humanity has become. Make them understand that the galaxy's balance of power has changed. What about direct contact? Asked Dr. Tanaka. The Council still doesn't know we're the ones behind these incidents. Chen's expression hardened. They will. Soon enough, we'll have a conversation they can't ignore. But first let them realize that they're no longer the apex predators in this galaxy. Let them understand that 50 years of silence doesn't mean 50 years of stagnation. She turned to address the entire command center. Everyone in this room has dedicated their life to proving humanity's worth. The galaxy laughed at us once. They called us insects and primitives. But insects can swarm and primitives can learn. It's time to show them what happens when you underestimate a species with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The displays around the room showed human ships moving through space like silent shadows. Each one carried technology that would revolutionize galactic civilization, or destroy it, depending on how the current powers chose to respond. The age of human silence was ending. The age of human action had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones you dismiss as harmless. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called for the first time in 3 centuries. Representatives from every major power scrambled to reach Nexus Prime as reports of the mysterious human intervention spread throughout civilized space. The great hall that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's expense now buzzed with worried conversations and fearful speculation. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the central podium, his usual confidence replaced by barely controlled anxiety. Around him, the assembled delegates showed similar signs of distress. The crystalline collective chimed with discordant harmonics. The Corvin Empire's representatives growled low in their chests. Even the ancient ethereals had emerged from their meditation cycles to attend this unprecedented gathering. Fellow council members, Kethvar began, his 4 arms trembling slightly. We face a situation unlike any in our recorded history. The species we dismissed 50 years ago has returned, and they have become something we never imagined possible. The holographic displays showed the accumulated evidence, wreckage from impossible weapons, energy readings that defied known physics, testimonies from survivors who described technologies beyond Confederation understanding. Each image drove home the same terrifying truth. Humanity had leapfrogged millions of years of expected development. How many confirmed encounters? Asked Seer Luxandra, her crystal form flickering with nervous energy. 47 verified interventions, Admiral Thexmar reported. Single ships appearing in crisis situations, neutralizing threats with overwhelming technological superiority, then vanishing without trace. Each incident demonstrates capabilities that exceed our most advanced systems. It makes no sense, rumbled Counselor Vexthai of the Corvin Empire. Species don't evolve this quickly. There are natural laws, developmental stages that cannot be skipped. Unless, whispered Elder Morgoth of the Voidwalkers, they found a completely different path to advancement, something outside our understanding of technological progression. The debate was interrupted by an impossible sound. Every communication system in the Great Hall activating simultaneously. Security protocols that had protected council deliberations for millennia simply stopped working. The massive dome's displays lit up with an incoming transmission that bypassed every defense as if they didn't exist. The image that appeared showed an elderly human woman sitting in what appeared to be a military command center. Behind her, holographic displays showed star charts and tactical information. Her white hair was neatly arranged, and her eyes held the weight of decades spent preparing for this moment. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Systems Navy, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's perfect acoustics. 50 years ago, you told us we weren't worthy of your consideration. You were correct. The humanity you rejected was indeed primitive. The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence. This was the species they had laughed at. The insects they had dismissed as insignificant, but the technology required to override their security systems and broadcast directly into their most protected chambers spoke of capabilities that made mockery of their assumptions. But you made one crucial mistake, Admiral Chen continued. You underestimated our capacity to learn, to grow, and to remember. Your dismissive response taught us everything we needed to know about your capabilities, your weaknesses, and your character. The view screen shifted to show space around Earth. Where 50 years ago there had been empty void punctuated by primitive chemical rockets, a fleet now materialized that dwarfed everything the Confederation had ever assembled. Thousands of vessels hung in perfect formation around the small blue planet. Each ship was larger than a Confederation dreadnought, their dark hulls seeming to absorb the light of nearby stars. Gasps and exclamations echoed through the hall. Counselor Yixar of the Trade Federation fell from her floating platform. Several crystalline representatives shattered from shock. their fragments tinkering on the floor like broken glass. The sheer scale of the human fleet exceeded every estimate of what should have been possible. "We spent 50 years in silence," Admiral Chen explained. "But silence doesn't mean stagnation. While you expanded your territories and fought your wars, we learned from your own transmissions. We reverse-engineered principles from the technical data you so carelessly included in your rejection. We developed technologies that bypassed your conventional limitations." The fleet began to move, demonstrating capabilities that violated everything the Council understood about space travel. Ships phased in and out of existence, moving instantly between distant positions without using hyperspace jump points. Energy fields that bent light and space formed protective barriers around the formation. Weapon systems powered up with energies that registered on sensors across multiple dimensions. "Your Confederation has grown comfortable with the idea that might makes right," Admiral Chen continued. "That advanced species can treat others as disposable. That the galaxy belongs to those strong enough to claim it. We're here to suggest a different approach." Ambassador Kethvar found his voice. "What do you want?" "Change," came the simple reply. "The Confederation will cease its territorial expansion immediately. You will establish protocols for respectful first contact with developing species. You will acknowledge that the age of casual supremacy is over. And if we refuse," this from Admiral Thexmar, his mechanical voice carrying across the hall. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "You won't. Because you're about to discover that Earth isn't alone." The displays around the hall lit up with new images, identical fleets materializing around every major Confederation system simultaneously. Nexus Prime itself was suddenly surrounded by dark ships that hadn't been there moments before. The precision required to coordinate such a massive operation across galactic distances demonstrated a level of organizational capability that chilled every observer. "How many ships?" whispered Seer Luxandra. "Enough," Admiral Chen replied. "We're not here to conquer. We're here to ensure that the strong can no longer prey on the weak without consequence. The galaxy will learn a new definition of civilization, one based on protection rather than exploitation." Elder Morgeth spoke for the first time in the session. "You could destroy us all." "Yes," Admiral Chen acknowledged. "But we won't. Because unlike some species, we've learned that true strength comes from using power wisely. The difference between us and you is that we'll use our capabilities to protect, rather than dominate." The transmission shifted to show recordings from the past months. Human ships saving civilians, stopping pirates, freeing slaves, protecting refugees. Every intervention demonstrated the same pattern. Overwhelming force used to protect the innocent, followed by aid and supplies for the victims. "We're not your enemies," Admiral Chen explained. "We're your conscience. Every time you ignore suffering because it's inconvenient, we'll be there. Every time you dismiss a species as unworthy, we'll be watching. Every time you use might to justify cruelty, we'll demonstrate that there's a better way." The hall remained silent as the implications sank in. The balance of galactic power had shifted overnight. The species they had dismissed as primitive insects had somehow become the most advanced civilization in known space. "We have demands," Admiral Chen continued. "Immediate cessation of expansion into inhabited systems without consent. Establishment of protection protocols for developing species. End to slavery and forced labor throughout Confederation space. These are not negotiations, they are requirements for continued peaceful coexistence." "And if we comply?" asked Kethvar. "Then we'll share what we've learned. The technologies that allowed us to advance so quickly can benefit everyone, but only after you prove that you can use knowledge responsibly." The transmission was ending, but Admiral Chen had one final message. 50 years ago, you laughed at our hope for friendship among the stars. You called us insects and told us to focus on not destroying ourselves. Well, we didn't destroy ourselves. We evolved. And now we're here to teach the galaxy the same lesson you taught us. Respect is earned through strength. Her image faded, but her voice echoed through the hall one last time. "The insects, as you called us, have learned to swarm. The question now is whether you're wise enough to learn from your mistakes." The communication ended, leaving the great hall in stunned silence. Outside, through the crystal dome, the delegates could see human ships maintaining perfect formation around Nexus Prime. The vessels were beautiful and terrible, representing a level of technological achievement that made the Confederation's greatest accomplishments look like children's toys. Ambassador Kethvar looked around at his fellow council members. The same beings who had laughed at humanity's primitive transmission 50 years ago now faced a choice that would determine the galaxy's future. Submit to human demands for peace and protection, or face a war they could not possibly win against technology they could not comprehend. The vote, he said quietly, will be unanimous for compliance, because the alternative is extinction. High above Nexus Prime, the human fleet maintained its silent vigil. The species that had once begged for friendship had returned with the power to enforce it. The age of casual cruelty was ending, and the age of enforced compassion had begun.